Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pixel Junkies podcast, episode 201. The date is March 22nd when we're recording this. I'm Aaron, your host for this episode, and I am joined by Andrew.
Hey, I forgot to do the date last week.
Oh, Adam.
Hello.
And Rory.
Hello.
How y'all
Why
sound
did you
depressed?
say Rory's name?
I'm not depressed. I was happy in my intro.
Oh, okay.
Well, actually, saying the date, Andrew, that's no problem because you were actually the one who came up with that convention because one day you introduced the podcast and said the date, and we all looked at you like we've never said the date before.
Yeah, I think it's important to do.
So now it's funny that you're
now
forgetting it and Aaron's remembering it.
All those important things that happened on March 23rd, and you're like, hang on, you missed a bunch of things. We're like, oh, we didn't know about it yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, so we got a whole bunch of topics to run through, and of course we're on a timer this week because Rory's itching to get going.
He's got a flight to
plans.
Australia to catch.
Yep, and it's going to be really interesting for me because I'm currently playing an F1 game, and
Oi, mate, you going down under?
So what we got on the list, we got, I guess one of the big things that happened this week is Google announced their new, I guess, streaming platform. They're getting into the gaming industry with what they call a Stadia. I don't know where that originates from, but it effectively, in short, is the concept is to, I guess, create a Netflix-style streaming service where you can stream games to just about any device that you own. Without having to own the game or a device that is capable of playing it. You just be able to stream it. So I think that's an interesting concept, but we have seen that before with OnLive, and that
I don't like it.
didn't really work. What are your guys' thoughts on it?
So, yeah. I'm not 100% sure sold on this because I remember distinctly being told back in the day that the Ouya was going to change the face of gaming.
Yeah.
And who owns an Ouya anymore? I think I remember Thomas picked up his Ouya for like $2 at a flea market.
Oh, really?
Because they were or something like that. He got it for ridiculously cheap. And
I thought he was a backer.
I ever played it.
Yeah, he should have bought a sweater or something.
I can't remember if somebody I knew bought it for ridiculous amount. I can't remember if it's not you, Thomas. I'm sorry, but you wasted your money. But yeah, I'm not entirely sold by this because. And I've heard a lot of other people kind of make the same complaints. The first thing I heard when I watched this kind of press conference was, this all sounds really great. What if you live in a country that has, like fucking, like notoriously bad internet, like, I don't know, the United States?
Yeah, that is definitely one part of it. There are still a lot of people in the United States, even for example, Toronto, what you're talking about, Adam, that have data caps. So, I mean, never mind having, like, reasonably fast internet, fast enough to stream a video game at 60 frames a second, 4K, which is what they're advertising.
They can barely do YouTube.
Yeah, in some cases, yeah. But then to stream a game like that over someone's internet that has, like, maybe a 50 gigabyte data cap, like, you'll max that out in fucking 2 seconds. So obviously that type of service isn't for those people, but...
Well, can you not afford
By the way, do you know why it's called
$50 an
Stadia?
No. Yeah,
It's called Stadia because it's the plural of stadium and is meant to reflect the fact that it will be a collection of entertainment of which the viewer can choose to sit back and watch or take an active part in. That's according to Google's Phil Harrison.
How's it?
Who is
the ironic
Well, I
thing
believe
there
him. He's a Google VP. We trust him.
In the middle of Adam's explanation there, you probably didn't hear it on the podcast audio, but we're using Discord for this, and Adam kind of just robotically trailed off halfway through that statement.
It sounded like his feed was getting cut by Google.
Cut it.
He's bad-mouthing us.
I mean, you know, the thing about...
Yeah, pretty much like that, yeah.
I mean, actually, Phil Harrison is kind of an interesting character because he's worked for both Sony and Microsoft before.
Yes.
So that's I think Google Stadia. Ignoring the practicality of people's internet connections, I think the idea is great, right?
Absolutely.
If everyone had the world's best internet connection, like I think the idea is actually like that's where I would like to see things go in some sense for like mainstream games. Now, I prefer to just have my executables and whatnot and go on about my day.
Yeah.
But like for most people, I think this would be a great idea. It's unfortunate that ISPs are ISPs, and the situation with people's internet is the way it is.
And
yes.
I know that because Google has its own internet service, right? Google Fiber.
I think that's kind of on the way out.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I don't think that's actively being pushed to any new locations.
Because you think that this would
anymore.
be an opportune time to start pushing it again, being like, hey, if you have
Maybe.
Google Fiber,
So
you can
yeah,
have
so I
this
just read
Stadia thing.
here in October 2016, all expansion plans were put on hold and
I think
they cut
yeah,
jobs.
I feel like Google Fiber was almost like an ultimatum, though. I don't think Google ever really had major intentions of spreading it globally. Maybe on some level they did, but I think it was really just like, hey, we're doing this. We're serious about it. Everybody's getting gigabit internet. And
Yeah,
then
and
also just
other ISPs were like, hang on, we got to do that too. And then Google just stood back and was like, okay, we got it.
Yeah.
Everybody has good internet now. Thank you.
Can I just remind people that this is all very well and good, and perhaps this is the direction that gaming is going. And in fact, it probably is, where we're going to be kind of like Netflix. It'll be streaming gaming as opposed to actually buying the disc. And I don't want to get into because Rory got to go somewhere. I don't want to get into the conversation of whether or not it's a bad idea to get rid of actually physically owning a game, whether digitally or physically, and just rely on streaming. That's a conversation for another time. But I do think that this is probably where the we're going in the industry. That being said, I'm not 100% sure we're there right now, and I think everybody was was like, oh my god, this is going to be amazing with the power of Google. This can't fail. I just want to like read out a list of some of the stuff that Google has pushed that has like they just quietly shunted to the side.
Google Glass?
Yeah, that was
Google
the
Plus.
first one. There's Google Answers. There was Lively. There was Google Glass. There
Google
was
Video
Google
as
Buzz,
well before they
Google
bought
Play
YouTube.
Edition. Yeah, Google Wave, Google Video, Google Nexus Q, Google X.
Anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
so
I
it
think
goes
most
on
of these
and on
things,
and on.
to be fair to Google, I think most of these things failed for like things like inability to sell them and stuff like that. Like usually Google products accomplish what they're supposed to.
Except
Yeah, I
YouTube,
think they're-
guess.
Well, I mean, it depends on what you think YouTube is supposed to accomplish, I
Well,
suppose.
they didn't really-
If you think YouTube is supposed to be good, no, it is
They
not.
didn't start YouTube. They bought it.
But they've done a job with it, which I'm sure they're happy with.
But I was going to add that, like, whether or not, Google is able to pull all of those things off, particularly Stadia, I think that this type of thing is the future regardless. Whether or not this is possible at this point, in 5-10 years, whenever this infrastructure is in place, this will absolutely be the future. And I don't think it will necessarily, at least at first, be a replacement to something like Steam or physically owning a game. Just to touch on the ownership of it, I mean, you could look at, eventually Steam might go away and then you lose all your digital games. Sort of the same way a streaming service like Netflix pulling a movie off there or something. So you kind of run into the same dilemma. But ultimately,
Yeah.
I feel like this will be in addition to, like, you can get, like, Game Pass now for Xbox, and you can get, like, EA Premiere or whatever it's called. I think that's more or less what this will be the evolution of. So, like, rather than just playing Microsoft or EA games, you'll have a catalog of a ton of games that you probably, like Humble Monthly, I guess, wouldn't necessarily spend a lot of money on, but you're totally willing to spend maybe $10, $20 a month on this membership to go and play this game and go, okay, this is actually pretty good. Maybe I'll pick it up and actually, like, own a copy of it. I feel like that's more what that's catering towards. But, we'll have to wait and see if the infrastructure is there for a big enough audience globally to sustain it.
I like
can
the
see
controller.
this- I kind of like it.
I'll have to.
Alright.
I gotta hold it first.
I don't. It looks too chunky, a little
It's
bit.
a bit chunky. I like that it's it's oriented correctly. So if you put a PlayStation 4 controller on a table, the triggers are actually like rather easy to activate by accident because it's like angled down, but this controller is actually angled. It's like perpendicular, like the triggers are perpendicular to the table. I like that. The D-pad looks like trash, but I like the analog sticks.
I think I can see this being a decent way of trying a game out before you buy it. Kind of like what you said, Aaron. Where if I can see some sort of integration with the major stores. Like I can imagine a future Steam setup where I navigate to the store page, I see a game that looks cool, and I can try it for a bit just on the store page. And then it's like, okay, this is decent. I will buy this. And then, actually be able to download the game proper and play it. I cannot see in any world that we, in the foreseeable future, them able to get the latency down enough to play these things properly. Yeah. I know to the average person, they're probably not even going to notice it. But if you get into like the competitive gaming scene, there's no way this is going to work.
No one is playing Quake on this. Not going to happen. Like, that's
But like if fighting games are totally out too.
Oh yeah, you're right. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean there was if you remember
even stuff.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say even stuff like that requires very very precise actual good, like
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty is out, but I'm thinking also stuff like Dark Souls or kind of more relevantly Sekiro. Like those are games that require very quick reaction times. You can't play that with any sort of lag at all, and if there's any kind of lag, it's going to fail. And I know that there's going to be, even here, like Newfoundland has or at least St. John's has pretty decent internet. When I rarely ever have issues with my internet. If I do, I just have to reset my router.
We do have pretty good internet here, yeah.
But I don't know if I can support, what were they saying, 4K 60 frame streaming?
Yeah.
And eventually 8K 120 frame streaming? Like, I don't know if we can do that with the current internet we have here.
No, I mean, if you remember when Xbox One sort of established itself, they had a streaming service on there, essentially. You might still be able to do it, I can't remember, but effectively it let you stream Xbox games to your PC. And even, like, it's been a couple of years since then, obviously, and the internet has changed, but even then, when you were streaming a game over your own internet, over your own network, there was still a degree of latency, which was incredibly noticeable in a racing game. And that, it's not something that you could realistically play with on a day-to-day basis. So hopefully that stuff like that is not an issue, but I don't know if they'll be able to work that stuff out.
I would say Phil Spencer's probably pretty upset right now because he remembers when the Xbox One was going to be always online, and people were like, boo, and Google comes out, they're like, we've got this thing that's always online, and people are like, woo, yeah!
I think the difference, though, is the reason. I think the difference is the reason, though, because in this case, it's only online because you need to be online in order to download the games, and in Xbox's... The reason the Xbox One was supposed to be always online, because we're going to do shitty DRM shit.
But I also think that this is a convenient way. I think that this is also a convenient way to do shitty DRM things.
Oh, yeah, they're going to do that regardless. They just packaged it better.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. I agree 100%.
Well,
I think they
it's also because
it in a way.
This is a separate service to the Xbox. Like, the Xbox is a kind of one of the default systems for console players to just play a game. And so when that's the only option to have an online service, it's kind of like, well, that's kind of shitty. But if you have, Netflix on the side, it's like, okay, well, I can buy into that if I want.
Right, yeah. And I'll be interested to see if Xbox can continue to be one of the default.
Well, I mean, I mean, there's lots of rumors swirling around that we're going to see stuff about the PS5 and the Xbox One Y or whatever the fuck they're calling the next one.
Good luck selling that, by the way.
Yeah. But we're gonna
Halo coming to PC.
Yeah, I mean, even long-term gaming, gamers that I know that have only played console, like, my friend Sandy has admitted to me, he said, yeah, I think this might be my last console generation. I might just migrate over to PC. I mean, I will probably still get a PlayStation and an Xbox, maybe not an Xbox because all their releases seem to be coming out on PC anyway. But, like, for PlayStation, I'll get it for the exclusives because I'm really still excited for stuff like God of War if they ever make another Uncharted or, whatever. But for stuff like, most games, PC is, like, I'm going to probably be going, maining PC, to borrow a fighting term, in the next little bit. So I don't know how well these consoles are going to do unless they're going to be radically different. I think the era of just release a new console with better everything, but, how, like, the PlayStation 2 was just better than the PlayStation 1 in every way. I think those years are over. They're going to have to do something radically different in order to maintain a user base or exclusives out the ass.
I think the benefit, I think one of the things that Sony's going to be able to rest on is the fact that still to this day, it owns JRPGs, right? Which is not like it's not everybody, but that is a big subset of people. Like, Japanese games do not come to PC as much as basically games from any other part of the world.
We got Ni no Kuni 2 now, though.
They do have Ni no Kuni 2, but not 1.
Nope.
The better one.
Anyway, that's a debate for another time, I guess.
Yeah.
Last week, Roy mentioned that DMC5 is that what it is? DMC5 is out.
Yeah.
Oh shit! But he hadn't had time to play it because he's a little busybody. So, have you had time to play it this week, Rory?
I played the first 4 missions of it, the prologue, and then missions 1 through 4 after that. It's absurdly good. It's probably, like, already. So the good thing about this game is, so if you know anything about Devil May Cry, there was the Devil May Cry games, and then there was the sort of reimagining of it, the Western reimagining of it, which was of varied popularity. A lot of fans didn't really enjoy it very much. Some of them did, and a lot of the new players really enjoyed it. This game is great because no matter which game you're coming from, you're going to like it. It's like the perfect balance of the two. So if you really like DMC, but you weren't into the other like Adam, for instance. Adam liked the reimagining, but he doesn't really like the other games. So, like, Adam would really like this new game. And if
is it up its ass with its own plot?
No, they never really have been. It's very stylized. It's very, like,
it's anime the game, really.
Yeah, it is. And a certain kind of anime. And I think it's really good, and I think it's the new characters are interesting. I remember playing as one of them, and for the first 2 minutes, I was like, I really don't like playing as this guy. But then as I unlocked more of his abilities, he's become one of my favorite characters to play as.
That's
V.
What was his name? Nero?
V.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right,
Nero
there's 3
was
playable characters.
Yeah, he's the Adam Driver looking guy.
There's 3 playable characters, but Nero was the main character of DMC4.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that V is the one who gets to attack with, like, a panther or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, panther and a bird. He's the super edgy guy who reads the book of poetry while he fights.
The book of poetry.
Yeah, he's got, like, a book of poetry that he carries around with him everywhere and reads from it. But
he's
yeah,
one of those assholes.
It's a great game, and all the voice acting is terrific, and the soundtrack's amazing, and I can't say enough good things about it. I haven't played all of it. Obviously, I've played a fifth of it, but if it keeps going as it's going, it could be one of the strongest DMC games in the whole series, which is cool. They've all been good except 2, so
that's good. Speaking of promising sequels, we got a CG trailer announcement for Andrew's most beloved favorite game of all time, greatest thing ever made by man, the Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2.
Oh, please say it again.
Vampire, not the Don't Nod one. The
Yay.
Masquerade Bloodlines 2.
So Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines is, like Aaron said, one of my favorite games of all time. It is a janky-ass game, but...
Well, how old is it at this point? When did it come out? Like 2003 or something?
4,
yeah.
I think.
Oh, 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was the first
Is it on
game
Source
to
Engine?
use... source besides Half-Life 2. In fact, Valve made them push the release date back because it was planned to come out before Half-Life 2. So
It's
yeah.
really good.
I love the game, love it to death, and it's incredible that this is coming out after all these years. Bloodlines was a commercial failure, but it's picked up a lot of steam since release.
Don't jinx it. It's picked up a lot of Epic too.
So it's I mean in the trailer it's I get the feeling that it's going to come to all the platforms.
Well, it's advertised on GOG at the very least. Like they've got
It's
it there, you can
advertised
buy
on
it.
GOG. I heard Epic as well.
That don't mean shit.
And it is on Steam.
Aaron
you can
has a
pre-order
point.
on Steam right now.
You can pre-order it. We'll do it fast before it gets pulled on the Epic Store, and then you gotta wait a year.
It's coming out a year from now. So there's plenty of time for Epic to work
2 years
their
is allowed
wily
for some
ways.
players.
Yeah, it's it should be good. Hopefully, the first game
The
is
original,
actually really
the
good.
lead writer from the first one is back.
You mean the Bloodlines, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to.
There's also Redemption.
Brian
Let's not forget
Mitsoda.
about Redemption.
Oh right,
Okay.
yeah. Vampire
Yeah.
the Masquerade Redemption.
That's the original.
Yeah, not a terrible game, but
I didn't play that one.
Bloodlines is much better.
This was like an isometric game or something.
Kind of, yeah. It's a turn-based RPG.
Bloodlines is kind of, it's almost well known for being one of the most powerfully deep, narrative-driven games ever to kind of come out for video games. I think some of the only games that have kind of ever matched its narrative depth have been games like, Planescape Torment and stuff like that, like old Golden Age PC games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
CRPGs
the main
are really
competitor here, or I guess the closest to Bloodlines that RPGs have gotten since then has been Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah.
In terms of the narrative choice that you're able to have.
Yeah, the branching factor in New Vegas is
Yeah.
choice.
And I mean, near the
massive.
end of Bloodlines, it all gets pretty linear. But it's people love Bloodlines because of how it feels to play. The atmosphere of the game is extremely unique and memorable, and it just makes you feel good when you play it because it's like, yeah, I'm a fucking vampire
It's
and
super
I'm
good.
awesome.
It
Yeah.
doesn't even matter
I-
the way it looks. Like it doesn't
No.
have any
Kinda
impact
does
on
to
the
me.
enjoyment.
The only thing I'm concerned about with this new game, and I am very excited for it, don't get me wrong, because I never played the original, but I've seen different gameplay videos from it, and I've heard a lot of, watched a lot of videos on it. It seems like it's a really interesting game. I don't know if I'd be able to go back and fully appreciate it because of how kind of dated and just flat out fucking broken it is. But it's
Well, you got to use the unofficial patch.
putting all that aside, I'm not 100% sure that a game made today with this level of fidelity can achieve that depth of narrative that the original one was made famous for.
What
I'm
about
not
the new
saying that they
Obsidian
can't
games?
do it. I suppose, but I don't know. It depends on who's making. I don't doubt them. The industry has changed since 2003, and I'm hoping that they're going to be able to recapture the magic. But I am a little bit skeptical. I'm skeptical of Cyberpunk 2020 or 2072 or whatever the fuck it's called.
2077.
Yeah, that one. And that's probably my most
2099.
anticipated game that's coming out, even more than Doom Eternal. I'm so excited for 2077.
Me too. Very much. Me too. Yeah.
But I am very skeptical of whether or not they're going to be able to deliver on kind of what they've promised in the different gameplay trailers that they've shown. Now, I do trust CD Projekt Red when it comes to being able to make a fully realized narrative-driven game. They did excellent work with the Witcher series, but at the same time, I mean, it could be a flop. So
I
I'm
agree it
tentatively
could be a
excited.
flop. I would say that I would recommend you play Divinity. If I was to recommend a game for you to reinvigorate your faith in people's ability to make good
Divinity
story
Original
games.
Sin, you mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but the difference between Divinity Original Sin and something like this or Fallout, let's say, is that it's an isometric game, which by its very nature is not designed to look pretty. I'm not saying that it doesn't look pretty; it does, but you don't have to worry about the same level of fidelity that you do with a first-person, open world, fully 3D game.
I agree,
You know what I
but
mean?
I don't know. I don't see how the additional fidelity takes away from the ability to create a compelling narrative.
Because it just seems to me.
I'm not saying it doesn't. I just don't see it.
Well, I'm
It's
just
certainly
worried
not
that
as immersive.
Yes, but at the same, like, I'm just worried that so much time will be spent on fidelity that narrative will be left.
Oh, you mean
aside,
like
'cause
it's a practical concern?
Yes, that's what.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
sorry.
understand. Yeah, I
see,
thought
that-
it was a
I mean,
theoretical concern.
I had the same sort of thought process when I played Pillar of Eternity. How, like, Obsidian, a studio that have made Fallout New Vegas in a relatively short period of time. Yes, a lot of the assets and stuff, blah blah blah. But I feel like my thought process going in was that you don't have this fidelity, so you can spend a lot more time fleshing out the narrative because you're using fewer assets. You don't need as many animations. All the dialogue is just text. So it's like you can kind of flesh out different avenues of the narrative without having to worry about all that extra work. And at the same time, I found Pillars of Eternity to be an extremely linear game. So I don't know if I feel like that doesn't really matter in the case of whatever game it is. I feel like it's just kind of on the onus of the developers to put the effort in regardless of what it looks like. So I feel like either way, Cyberpunk or the Outer Worlds or even this could be.
I will say
could be
on-
big branching narratives. Or could
On a
have.
personal level, I'm okay if they sacrifice a bit of the fidelity for the sake of the narrative.
I am as well.
That's by far the better of the two sacrifices for me in the way I would like to play.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is the lead designer and writer from the first Bloodlines is back on this, Brian Mitsoda.
And that's why I'm not entirely skeptical about this. This is why I'm mostly
And,
excited.
Chris Avallone has said that he's worked on this as well. So
And I think it is. I agree. I actually think to Adam, I think it's actually good to be skeptical because I think generally now stuff is disappointing more often than not in the games industry for like sort of individual things. Like there's lots of great stuff coming out, but if you got excited about everything, you'd be sad probably a great deal of the time.
We live in a world where we have games like Red Dead Redemption 2, and graphics are far beyond anything that we had 10, 20 years ago for sure. So I feel like you have sort of relative expectations with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You almost expect narratives to be as good as the visuals of games like that, Horizon Zero Dawn, and The Witcher and stuff like that. So I guess it just kind of it builds, it snowballs essentially. I feel like over the years, and like the expectations grow and the products grow, and making a game back then wasn't easy because a lot of the programs and stuff didn't exist. But I feel like it was way easier to make a successful game then because the mechanics could be a lot more rudimentary and the visuals could be a lot shittier, and it was totally acceptable. Whereas now
Even
you have
more-
like you end up with like branching narratives like Fallout New Vegas, and it's like how can a startup studio compete with something like that? So
Yeah, well, there's also the fact that a game now, in order to be successful, at least in the AAA market space, now it's different on PC for the large part, but you need. It seems like you need massive, and perhaps this is just a lie that we've kind of told ourselves as the industry is kind of toddled on, but it seems like you need massive marketing campaigns in order for many of your games to be successful. I mean, there are standouts, of course. Undertale was very successful.
Stardew Valley
without
as
a
well.
massive marketing campaign. Same with Five Nights at Freddy. That kind of just
I think all three of those
games.
games were made by one person. So
I think, and I agree, Adam, and I think your intuition is correct on, like, I don't think that the marketing budget needs to be as high as it is, but I also think that having the really high marketing budget is one of the ways that developers have gotten away with the monetization of games that they have, is they could say, look how much this game costs, and then if you actually dig into it, about half the cost was marketing. It's like, look how much money we spent on advertisements. It's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Like, not for me personally.
Anyway, somewhat speaking of Cyberpunk, is that we haven't gotten a release date, but we did get some news that both Cyberpunk and their next secret project that we apparently know nothing about. I don't know if they've dropped any teasers
Apparently
or anything.
it's a AAA RPG.
So, yeah, that's
Somehow.
promising.
You think
Both
it would
of those...
be a Game of Thrones RPG?
Maybe.
No.
I
Well,
doubt
maybe.
it.
We already
Maybe.
have one of those.
Do we?
It's all right. You should try it.
There's
They'll
actually two Game of
probably
Thrones
hate it,
games.
but it's
there's
all
an
right.
RTS. Yeah, there's that one in RTS. Anyway, both will be out by 2021, so hopefully that means we'll be getting some announcements as to when Cyberpunk is coming out very soon. Maybe late this year, maybe even in the summer, though I doubt it. So that would give them an extra 2 years to do their polishing on whatever the other AAA RPG is.
It would be unwise to release...
Shit.
It would be unwise for Vampire to release near Cyberpunk.
I agree
Yes.
100%.
And the other way around as well.
But I don't think...
These are two directly competing games.
I'd like
I
to
They
agree.
think that
should
both
avoid each other.
I like to think that both companies have enough respect for video games to not do that. Besides the fact that they would be directly competing against each other, so let's have a bit of respect for each other and be like, we'll release different times just so we're not trying to take sales away from each other.
Yeah.
So
also,
I-
my dick would literally fall off if that happened.
So, Andrew, I agree with you that would be a problem because of the competition, but I think that this is one of more of the direct competitions that I saw. But even if they were sort of tangentially related, I think now, given how much of a time sink games are, like I'm always reminded of Skyrim releasing in late 2011 and then Kingdoms of Amalur coming out in early 2012, and those aren't at all similar games. They're completely different types of RPG, but they still competed because they demanded so much time.
Yeah.
And I think generally people need to be slightly more careful about releasing games that are just huge time sinks right next to each other.
I kind of have the opposite opinion. Given the current
interesting.
climate of gaming, PC gaming in particular, with all the exclusivity and loot boxes and battle royales and all that stuff, I feel like if you were to have both Cyberpunk and Vampire, which on the surface, and even if you dive into them a little bit, especially with Cyberpunk, because we don't really know much about Vampire yet, but based on its historically, both games are very like quintessential PC gamer games. They're
Yes.
just very narrative heavy, very like kind of robust, but also kind of rudimentary in that it doesn't really hold your hand kind of RPGs. And I feel like if you were to release two of those now in this climate, that, you use the phrase, all the master races everywhere would buy both of them because there's really nothing else available at the moment, in terms of, coming out, that really caters to that, I feel.
Yes.
Yeah, and I
Unless,
guess
of course, unless Epic gets the rights to Vampire, in which
Which
case
is entirely
everyone will just
possible.
buy Cyberpunk.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, if you want to kill your sequel to an already kind of cult game, then that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of Epic doing stuff, what the hell is... Oh, I didn't put designer on. Apparently, Epic is saying they're going to stop pushing for exclusives eventually.
why?
Because presumably they'll have run out of things to push for exclusivity.
Speaking of Epic exclusive, did you know that Half-Life 3 was just confirmed today to be an Epic Store exclusive?
I wouldn't be surprised, Adam.
Why would they stop pushing for exclusives? I don't like that they're pushing for exclusives the way they are, but why would they ever stop? Serious question.
I mean, I don't know. I'll take a stab at it. I assume because their intention isn't necessarily to compete with Steam as a competent service, like we've talked about in the past. It's purely to steal enough customers and players to justify all of their purchases and their storefronts, and then get a big enough selection of people to market new things to. And once they've done that, then they can probably stop getting exclusives. So I mean, that's what my understanding of it would be. Now maybe there's something more malicious than that. I can't imagine it being less malicious.
So Epic Game Store head Steve Allison did an interview at GDC, which just happened. Hold on. I have it right here. So I would assume that he was asked this because of all the bad press Epic's been getting because of all this terrible, terrible shit they're doing. Mm-hmm. I'll read out the quote from Steve Allison here. I don't think we plan to negotiate exclusives for... Oh! We'll probably do it for a while. It's just about pushing the business model, helping people thrive.
Why does he sound like Arthur if he was repulsive as fuck?
Hopefully people just come, or the industry moves down and matches us. I understand the sentiment about it, so I'm pretty sensitive to how I answer this question. But the answer is yes. At some point, we could go to 0, or we could go to very, very few major exclusives in any given year. We will definitely not be doing it on the scale we're doing it now for an extended period of time.
This is the dumbest thing anyone's ever said.
This sounds like well, first off, I wouldn't trust anybody that sounds like he would follow Stonewall Jackson in the combat in the middle of the fucking Civil War.
Yeah,
Let's
it started off as one thing and ended as another.
It kind of sounded like a news anchor or something.
Did it? It sounded like he owned slaves to me.
Well, yeah, if a slave owner was also like a broadcaster or something. It did real news twang about it anyway.
I love it. It's just like, yeah, you all hate this. And eventually we're going to stop doing it. We're going to keep doing it right now. This is just like, I don't know. Oh, God. I just hate
Epic
this so
is
much.
dog shit.
This is a real problem for, like, I feel like sort of, I don't, like, not personally, I don't work at Epic. I don't know anyone who works at Epic, actually, as it would turn out. But I really like what they've done historically for gaming. Like, I played Unreal Tournament as a kid. I loved it. The Unreal Engine is amazing, and making it free was an amazing move. Like, they've done a lot to help and support the gaming community. And
that fostered a lot of respect from me when they did that. And it's
me too. Yeah, that was a great
gone down
move.
to the negatives at this point.
Yeah, and now it's like, yeah, I think they've totally gone in the other direction. And it's really, that's a really disappointing thing. Like, if you asked me where I would have wanted to work a couple years ago, I might have said Epic Games. And it's like, you know.
And if
like,
Roy had made that decision, he would be dead by now.
Yeah, I'd be the least popular guy probably in my friend
children,
group.
sometimes your dreams are dog shit.
So I'm really sad about this. Just yeah, like it just sucks to. I've remembered Epic Games since I was a kid. Like I don't know when like the Unreal Tournament came out, but like it was a long damn time ago.
Yeah, I remember when my least favorite thing about Epic Games is when Gears of War came out, and one of the lines in it was that I owe you $20 or something, except it takes place on a planet that isn't Earth. And I was like, that's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
There should be a different currency. And I was like, anyway. But now we got all this nonsense from Epic.
Yeah.
They were also asked if, I guess, Tim Sweeney, the human tampon, takes orders from Tencent. And they were very adamant about, you know, explaining that no, he does not take orders from Tencent.
Did he
even
reach
though
up
they
to a
own
little
40%
earpiece
of the
first?
company.
I will say that personally, the Tencent thing is one of the things that bothers me less about the company, just because it's so pervasive in so many companies.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. But the Steam isn't owned by Tencent.
That's true. That is a good point. The
So
yes, I mean I agree with you, and you know, on this, you know, generally on this show, I tend to like, you know, we talk you know, a bit about Steam, and sometimes in a critical way. I mean, certainly Steam had a bit of an issue recently with regards to their quality control, we'll say. but nothing like this ever.
Yeah, well, we could shit on Epic all night, so let's move on. Oh, wait.
Okay,
the
all
Outer
right.
Worlds. What was supposed to be the third pillar in our bastions for PC gaming has
at
swapped to the
GDC
dark side.
At GDC, Aaron, one more thing they were asked is, given how much rage that the Metro Exodus move caused, they were, what's his name? Allison. He was asked if if Epic would ever do something similar, and he responded immediately, "We don't want to do that ever again."
So they did that immediately.
So
again.
the Outer Worlds is now.
Yeah.
The Outer Worlds,
The Outer
is now
Worlds
an
is now
Epic
Epic
Store
exclusive?
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something that I really do believe. And I think I was mentioning this to you earlier. Earlier this week. There is a subset of PC gamers who are never going to go near the Epic Store, no matter what they get. That subset of gamers is exactly the people who'd be playing the Outer Worlds. Exactly. It's the CRPG fans. That this is a terrible idea. Like, I'm not saying, there are probably a lot of, like, regular casual gamers who will pick up this game, especially with it being on the Epic Store, but that's not the community you want. You want the community that's really passionate about your game.
No, exactly. This is this game. It feels like the marketing on it when it was announced, it was like, "Hey, Fallout 76 is awful. Get our game because this is what you wanted."
Well, that wasn't their intention. They wanted to make that very clear that it wasn't a direct response to
apparently
what
not now.
Bethesda was doing.
Yeah, it
also,
didn't work.
I don't think Obsidian had really any say in this at all. In fact, they were putting up Steam achievements just hours before this was announced.
We
Yeah,
all
fucking
knew that there would
stand
be a
your ground.
problem with the Microsoft buy, right? When Microsoft bought them, we all knew it was going to play out somehow, right?
Well, I think
It's
so.
still coming to the
Microsoft
Windows
isn't
Store.
publishing the Outer Worlds. Outer Worlds is published by a different publisher.
They're not publishing it, but I bet they still make a lot of the decisions with regards to interaction with the publisher.
Maybe. I am thinking that the Microsoft buyout is the only reason this is also coming to the Windows Store. So
Where no one is going to buy it either.
Yeah, but it's Epic exclusive insofar that it's not on Steam. But
Would it
unlike
be
many of the other
Microsoft, though?
exclusives that are coming out,
Because we're
this
getting
one is also on Microsoft, on Windows.
we're getting like 4 Halo games that were not on PC before from this same company. So I feel like it wasn't necessarily Microsoft's decision to pull this from other stores.
Oh, not necessarily, yeah. But I think, to me,
I'm saying that Epic probably went to the guys that are actually publishing the Outer Worlds, and they made the decision, and Microsoft stepped in and was like, okay, we can't stop you from doing this, but since we own your company, you do have to also put it on the Windows Store.
right. That's an interesting. Yeah, I didn't really think about that, but that's a possibility. So I'm left with an interesting dilemma. The game is coming out on PS4, right? On launch, actually, and it's like, what do I want? Do I want to play the game on launch and then not have mods, or do I want to wait and play the game a year later and have mods? And I'm not sure that I want to buy the game at all now, to be honest, because when
matey.
what's that? The Lord of the Rings Shadow of War is the second Lord of the Rings game.
Yeah.
I didn't buy that because it had microtransactions, and when they took out the microtransactions, I still didn't buy it because I
No,
didn't.
none of us did.
I didn't
I
want to
recall-
forgive the mistake.
I recall
If I
E3
buy it, I'm going
that
to buy it
year.
secondhand, so the
Yeah,
Warner Brothers
exactly.
gets no money from me.
I agree with that because I don't want developers to think that they can just make a mistake and then by the time the mistake has expired, we can just all forget about it. I don't think that's a good attitude that they have. They're like, oh well,
It's a very
people
dangerous
forget.
attitude to have in any industry.
Yeah,
That,
I agree with that.
We can if we kind of reverse our we'll reverse our what we did here. We're not sorry, we're sorry we got caught, and we'll reverse what we did now, and then in about 3 months we'll quietly undo that and bring back the microtransactions, and hopefully, because time has passed, nobody will kick up a stink.
Yeah, exactly. So I think on the release date of the Outer Worlds, I'm going to fire up Fallout New Vegas and play an actual game. That's available on actual good services.
I like your thinking there, Rory. I respect that a lot.
Well, thank you. The
Aaron, is anything else? Any other news? Maybe games coming only to Steam to counter Epic's
maybe.
scummery?
You know this pretentious artsy French guy named David Cage? Apparently he's made a couple video games, and they're
some of
finally
them are
coming
good.
to PC.
Yeah, on Steam?
Nope, just Epic. There will be, once again, there will be a, presumably a year period, I haven't read into it myself, but a year period where they will be exclusive to the Epic Store, and then will come to, quote, other stores later. So, I don't know, whatever. I've played Beyond Two Souls, and what was it Prophet, what was the name of that first one he did?
Heavy Rain.
No,
Indigo
not that one.
Prophecy.
Indigo Prophecy. I forgot
Or
that was him.
Fahrenheit, depending on where you
Depending upon where you are, yeah.
Yeah, that game eventually just devolved into a bunch of like Simon Says cutscenes and vampires or some shit at the end. I don't know. What the hell
it was
going on in that game.
Aliens. But
Oh,
Indigo
Aliens,
Prophecy is Fahrenheit is on GOG right now, and I recommend you play it if it looks the least bit interesting to you. It's really good up until the last
Yeah, the ending
quarter.
was kind of dumb.
Yeah.
I would be interested to see if anybody who has an Epic Store account buys one of these games. Literally one. Like, what?
Speaking of exclusives, Remedy, the people who made oh man, I got fucked. The
Max
people who
Payne.
made Max Payne and Quantum Break and other things. I think maybe, or is that the only ones that they've made? Anyway, they're working on another game called Control, where you play as some like telekinetic woman who can move shit around and whatever.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. When
Looks-
can I play it on Steam?
2020, because it's exclusive to Epic. Which is, I don't know. I remember. I remember seeing that at E3 and thinking, oh, that's pretty interesting. I'll look into that. And then, yep, I guess I'll be playing it in the next decade. Oh, man. And
The Sinking City. This isn't on the list. The Sinking City, which comes out in like 2.5 months or 1.5 months.
it's
Also
on
Epic
now as well. Oh, that's
exclusive.
good. I'm glad they're only doing that Metro thing that one time.
Yeah.
Yeah, wouldn't want to do
good.
that again.
Yep. Anyway, the One Punch Man is getting another season or something. I don't know what this is.
Adam likes One Punch Man a lot.
We'll
Yeah,
talk
so
about it.
One Punch Man is an anime that came out in, I think, 2016. It was first released based off a manga, which itself is based off a webcomic called One Punch Man. It follows the tales of, was it Sataman? Saitaman? Anyway.
That's me.
Basically, it's a...
Seto Kaiba.
There's a character in Japan, a very, very young, like, children's cartoon character that is a superhero who has a white cape with a yellow jumpsuit and red gloves and red boots. And he's bald, and he's like, he goes around like, okay, kids, remember always do your, brush your teeth and eat your vegetables, that sort of thing. Like, for very, very young kids. And so the guy who made One Punch Man was like, what if this guy was the most powerful superhero ever? So that's where One Punch Man's design comes from and why it kind of looks a bit silly. Anyway, I love the original anime, the first season. It's
It's a
absolutely
really
fantastic.
fun show.
It's fun. It's extraordinarily self-aware about what anime is, because it pokes fun at anime, all like battle, especially battle manga like Dragon Ball Z or My Hero Academia or Naruto, and it's just so it constantly pokes fun at those other kinds of animes, like not in a mean way, but just like we all know that this is pretty stupid and we're just here celebrating that. But the thing about One Punch Man that makes it super special is that it has some of the prettiest and smoothest animation I've ever seen. The fight scenes
Smoother
are
than Jimmy
extraordinarily well
Neutron.
Yes. What?
More like Jimmy Pootron.
Anyway,
More like Poo Punch Man.
the original run of One Punch Man was very well received, and people were wondering, we're all, because it only really covered the first couple of manga volumes, and so people were like, "Are you ever going to do a second one?" And it's been announced that the second one has been in the works, and we got a trailer for it this week. Dropped for the second manga or the second season of the anime. It's going to be coming out later on this year, and it looks really, really good. The animation looks to be of the same quality as before, and based on the manga that they're going to be following for this season, it's going to be really, really good, because some of the arcs in this season are pretty fucking fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to that. One Punch Man is one of my favorite animes of all time, so I am very, very excited for this.
Cool.
That's neat. We're talking about Epic a lot, so maybe we'll give Steam a bit of love. Steam, just like Valve and Gaben, they're giving Steam a bit of love too. They're overhauling the game library page finally for the first time in a very long time to just generally have a lot more information, look a lot nicer, and reorganize your shit. So I'm looking forward to that myself, because Steam has been kind of bland for a long time. There's a lot of good skins that you can get to kind of redress Steam up a bit, but from what I've seen, it just looks like a sizable overhaul. So I'm looking forward to that.
Give me a way to organize my badges. Super annoying that your badges appear on your profile in the order you got them, and there's no way to rearrange it.
Can you not? Isn't there like a dock that you can put on your profile to just pick specific badges?
No, there's just a featured badge option. There's no pick specific badge options. Sorry. There is a dock, but it's separate from the default badge dock, which is annoying. Just let me organize them, please.
I'm not massive on badges because you effectively have to buy them, and I feel like that's kind of cheating.
That's true. You can sell stuff to buy them, right?
Yes, but I feel like I don't know. I mean, I see, generally when the way Steam works, if you don't use Steam, you're one of them epic plebs. You play a video game on Steam, and you get trading cards, and you can do whatever you want with those trading cards. If you collect the whole set, you can turn them into a badge. If you collect the whole set again, you can level up your badge, and you can keep doing that, and so on and so forth. Cards generally sell anywhere from, 5 cents to, if the game is new, 30 cents. It's not a massive amount, but generally when I get them, I just sell the cards, and then I get Steam Wallet money, and I've bought games with the trading cards that I get.
Yeah.
So I don't bother with the badges.
Oh, by the way, if you don't use Steam and you're one of those epic plebs, you probably shouldn't be watching this podcast. I don't think it's for you. I think you should.
Rory. What do you mean?
I think you should turn it off and go watch one of those creepy knockoff Spider-Man Kids videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
Unbiased, non-partisan.
I mean, chances are you're like 11 years old, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's some raw
Steam is
news
for
right
cool people.
Was that me
What
farting?
the fuck was that?
That was the Price is Right sound effect reversed.
We got
that was me farting. I don't know how you got that audio.
We got a band on the show now, joining the likes of
man.
the Tonight Show and stuff like that.
No, no, no.
We actually have a real band in studio. Woody Harrelson's the music director, and Tyrese sings.
We did have a band, now they're Epic exclusive.
Oh, damn it!
So we'll get them next year. Oh man, remember all those announcements we were getting about the Borderlands game? Well, maybe it's not Borderlands 3 at all. Maybe it's a remaster.
Well, maybe
we already got a remaster.
Okay, maybe Borderlands 3 is also coming.
It might be.
It's looking like you won't have to wait for Borderlands 3 to get your juicy microtransactions.
Bust out your wallet now.
ESRB has a new Borderlands Game of the Year entry for PC, PS4, and Xbox One.
I mean, Game of the Year? It came out like fucking a decade ago.
I don't know what it is either, but one thing in the new ESRB listing mentions in-game purchases, which is something previous entries have not had.
Oh man, we called
that
it.
That is not
really
entirely true. Borderlands 2, you could buy skins.
Yeah, but did ESRB was in-game purchases? mentioned in the ESRB?
I don't know if they were mandated at that time.
I believe they were not. I don't know if Apple spearheaded that, but I remember a long time ago when they changed a lot of the apps in the App Store from free to get, because most of the apps that were quote free were not free. They had in-app purchases.
And I do think there's going to be obscenely more microtransactions in this game.
Man, can't wait to buy all them shift keys.
You know what doesn't need a remaster? Borderlands.
I mean, yeah, I think the intention of the graphics is just kind of timelessly cartoony, kind of not necessarily low poly, but that's just sort of the style.
I agree, it's the style. I also like so much of this stuff. Like I felt the same way about BioShock, and not only did BioShock not need a remaster, but when it got one, it was awful. So
particularly on PC, where the typical remaster formula is to make it the current standard resolution at the current standard frame rate, which you could already do on PC with the original game. So
yeah, I still play Borderlands. I still like it. It looks fine. It plays fine. Yeah. This is a massive waste of time if it is true.
Well, it's not a waste of time if you can spend money on it, Rory.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I guess
they can buy all them shift keys, and Randy can get fucking double up on that cheese pizza on his flash drive there. Anyway, that's enough of that.
Really
I think if they don't announce Borderlands 3 at PAX, then they're probably going to burn the city of Boston down, so good luck with that. Nice job, Randy.
Yeah.
And we get, moving on from that, we got some dates for the following, or the other 3, is it now? Life is Strange 2 episodes. And I haven't played it myself, but they will be coming out in May, August, and December, respectively. So, I think as far as
you took my thunder.
I will go back and do your Tom Cruise bit.
No, it's all right. I was gonna do a cool rap.
No.
I wrote a rap specifically for this segment, and you stole it.
Was that the paper you were rustling around earlier?
Was I rustling paper? I mean, yes.
Somebody was.
That's me. I'm reading a book.
Oh.
I'm not actually.
Anyway.
Don't worry about it.
Has anybody
played it? I guess
you'll
never... I'll have to rewrite my rap for next week.
Alright, go ahead.
This is it. This is the moment where Rory quits.
Are they going to do You Remember song? What was that song? It's like 60s song, I remember. I think it's called September. I think that's the name of the song. Anyway.
Remember...
No, do not quote that movie.
December?
Of December. Oh, shit.
I mean, the 3rd of December, because that's episode 5.
Has anybody played
let's move on.
Life is Strange 2?
No.
I didn't play Life is Strange 1.
Alright, well, nobody's played it yet.
I heard in the first episode, a fat white guy was like, "You're the reason we should build a wall, goddammit." And then I was like, "Oh, okay. This game is stupid."
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'll hold off till I play it. Moving on from that, we got a ton of trailers this week. We got one for Good Omens, which I've never heard of before, but apparently Adam likes it. What are your guys' thoughts on this trailer?
On what trailer?
That's good.
So I'm looking forward to...
Well, why don't you first describe loosely what Good Omens is?
Well, Good Omens is it was a collaboration between a very young Neil Gaiman and a very young Terry Pratchett, written back in the 80s, where it was their first major work, really, by the both of them. They weren't well known back then as Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman, as they kind of are now known as kind of masters of craft in modern fantasy.
I've never heard of them. What's this about, though?
So Good Omens takes place in the 80s, although I think it's been modernized to modern day for the Amazon show. I don't know.
It has.
And it takes place in England, and two of the main characters are, I can't remember the angel's name, but there's an angel and a demon who are
Michael Sheen.
Michael Sheen is playing the angel, and David Tennant is playing the devil, the demon Crowley. And they are both representatives of heaven and hell, respectively, on Earth, and they're meant to steer Earth in the direction of heaven and hell, either make it more sinful or sinless, and over 5,000 years of looking over the earth, the two of them kind of become friends because they keep bumping into each other.
David Tennant's pretty great, isn't he?
And they end up.
I like David Tennant.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
Jordan.
Oh, yeah, Jordan was calling me. I hung up on him.
Yeah, I'm also gonna hang up on. Anyway, they get this. Eventually, they come to love the Earth. They love, especially Earth's art and music. They love humans, and eventually, they find out from their superiors in heaven and hell, respectfully, that the Earth is doomed to be destroyed because the apocalypse that was foretold in the Book of Revelations is nigh. And the Antichrist is going to be born on Earth and begin the war between heaven and hell that will destroy the Earth. And well, fucking let me explain. So the book is about these two angels, or this angel and this demon, trying to find the Antichrist and prevent him from starting the apocalypse. There are other characters in the book as well, including a witch and a witch hunter, and the actual Antichrist himself is a character. And there's a number of different other characters that are involved in the plot. And the plot actually, it's not like complex, but there is multiple intertwined narratives. It's really best left unexplained, but it is very, very good. It's very funny. It's very dark, which you get from both Pratchett and Gaiman, respectively. It's very, very good. So I'm looking forward to this show, because if this show does well, hopefully some of their other works will get made into shows as well. Like, I would love to see some of the Discworld stuff get made into a TV show, or perhaps not that I don't like American Gods, because I do, but I would like to see some of Gaiman's other stuff, like Sandman. I'd love to see a Sandman adaptation, but that's neither here nor there. So yeah, really looking forward to this. We finally got a trailer after all this time, so yeah, this is really exciting to me.
Benedict Cumberbatch,
one of my favorite books.
Is he?
Yep.
Cool.
Well, we also got a trailer for John Wick 3, another one.
I think this looks great.
Have not seen this trailer. I'm not big on John Wick 2.
I was gonna say,
Really?
what are your thoughts on John Wick, Roy? Because
I love John Wick 1. To me, John Wick is like, it was a really nice self-contained thing that kind of did everything I wanted it to do. Like, if that makes sense. When John Wick 2 came out, I was like, all right, cool, let's see it. And I feel like, having watched it, a big part of my enjoyment of John Wick 1 was how fresh it was. And John Wick 2 was mostly a revisitation, and it mostly just cranked it up a little bit. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like it's good. It's definitely good, and I guess it's cool that it exists, but I don't know if it's for me anymore, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair. I really like the second one, and I think this trailer looks pretty good. I'm really excited for it.
I'm probably like the least critical about films of the group here, if I may be so bold. But
I think that's fair.
I kind of look at John Wick as a, like, I think the first one is definitely the strongest of the two thus far, and based on the trailer, maybe of the three, just in terms of what it was doing. But I think John Wick is a good modern day interpretation of like an 80s action movie, and I like that they're making a lot of them, because there's really nothing else doing that. I mean, we have Fast and Furious, but that's so far up its own ass, it's coming out the mouth and going back up the ass again.
Yeah. It's like an Ouroboros.
It's also, like, the difference, I think John Wick may be equally absorbed with itself, but John Wick is good, and Fast and the Furious is bad.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, John Wick has established its own world and lore, whereas the Fast and Furious has not done that. And it's kind of moved so far away from its original
Well, I mean, people would argue that they've established a world there, but I think you can watch John Wick and not necessarily enjoy it for its story, because there's just a lot of good action set pieces in it. I mean, like, the half of the second movie for sure is just like one action scene. You know, there's a lot of action going on in it. So I think it's I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad movies like that exist.
Sure, and
I
I have
am
no
too,
doubt
and
that
I'm not
this will
saying
be
that I
a
don't
John
like-
Wick movie. Like, I'm sure they'll do a good job of doing the John
Yeah.
Wick thing.
But I just think that some of the magic was lost in the second one that the first one have, because like the first one was such an insular, well told, kind of beginning, middle, and end story, and then the second one they were like, oh, this one was really successful. Let's try and build on that. And I don't blame them for trying to do that, but at the same time, it's just not as good as the as the original.
I don't know that they could have done. I don't know that they could have replicated it. I think for me at least, so much of the magic was just it being fresh that I don't know if they could have made a John Wick 2 that I liked.
Well, I mean, maybe not. I feel like the magic that you're talking about there is the fact that John was an unknown, and then when the movie ends, he's an established character. You know his story, so when you do the next one, that magic it has to be something else.
Yes. Absolutely. And that's why I don't blame the creators of it. Sort of.
Yeah.
Personally, I feel like no matter what they did, they were sort of screwed with me. So.
Oh yeah.
I love the idea of.
I feel like Dredd would have made for a better sequel than John Wick.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. I buy that 1,000%.
But I think that's for the same reason that Roy's getting at, though, is because there's still a lot of unexplored magic in that universe.
Yeah.
Whereas, because John Wick takes place on Earth and he's just a guy, once you answer every question in that first movie, then there's really nothing else to explore.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I love the concept of the third movie where an assassin's trying to escape New York with a fuckload of other assassins chasing. I think that's a cool idea.
Except he's not just in New York, though.
I mean,
So we
we'll
know
wait.
he makes it out. Maybe.
We'll wait and see
Maybe
the
it's
movie.
all a
but-
dream.
I am not looking forward to this movie for another reason. This is the main reason. It has Halle Berry in it, and
What
I
are you, a
fucking hate her.
misogynist?
No, I'm not a misogynist.
What are
I
you,
just
a
do
racist?
not like this actress.
A racist and a misogynist.
But can I ask a question to Adam?
Yes.
Has there been a movie that you thought was good except for Halle Berry, or are there like Halle Berry's been in some terrible movies, but those
She was
movies
a great
were
Chinese
bad.
man
You know
in
what I
Cloud
mean?
Atlas.
Like Catwoman is bad, right? Irrespective of Halle Berry. The
I suppose.
I like Cloud Atlas.
I didn't particularly. She was in. It was Swordfish that she was in, right?
she was in Swordfish, yeah.
Yeah,
You
I
saw
didn't
her bobs.
particularly enjoy her performance in Swordfish. I thought
Okay, sure.
the reason that people raved about it was like, oh, we got to see her fucking boobs. I'm like, and
But
like her, I just didn't like her.
but
performance
Swordfish
all
has
that
been a
much.
panned movie.
It's not that I think that she's a bad actress per se, but I think a lot of people say that she's this amazing actress, and I'm just like, no, I really don't think she is. I think she's not. She's
Have
not
you
on
seen
the
all
same.
of her movies?
No, I haven't seen all of her movies.
there's your
but
homework
all the
for the
stuff
week.
that I'm not watching Halle Berry movies, but it's just like I don't think that she's quite as good as a lot of other people say she is. And now keep in mind, most of the movies I've seen her in have been bad. But
Yeah, I don't know anyone who says Halle Berry's a great actress.
But like anyway,
They might
I haven't
exist. I'm
seen
not
her
saying-
in Die Another Day.
Well, actually, X-Men is a good example. I really don't like her portrayal of Storm. In
Yeah, that's
the
fair
original
because
kind of
X-Men, those movies are good, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And
So I
really
think it's
don't like
better
her as Storm.
to use that as a case study, right? Because at least
Anyway.
then she can stand out.
We don't have time
But
for
anyway,
this.
maybe she won't. Maybe she won't have a major role in the film. I don't know. And maybe she'll be good in this one. I don't know.
She does, but anyway.
Do you know what
I mean,
happens to a toad that gets hit by lightning?
It shows its
move on.
tits in Swordfish.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's not. Let's. Joss Whedon's wrote some rough stuff in the past. We'll give him a break on that one.
Anyway,
That's a Joss Whedon line?
That's
Yep.
the only Joss Whedon line in the movie.
Oh no! I always thought it was a David Hayter line.
Nope,
but-
that was the only line Joss Whedon contributed to the movie.
Oh,
the rest of the
jeez.
script is a David Hayter script.
Yeah.
I feel like that wasn't delivered the way Joss had intended. But anyway,
I think what happened was that probably isn't the X-Men movie Joss would have written had he had.
Yeah, maybe Joss had a stroke or something.
I think it was probably a little less funny than Joss would have gone about it. Like he probably would have told a more like lovable misfit Buffy style story if he had the reins.
yeah, it's if you stick a little like rough Joss edge into this movie, it's not a Joss movie.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of need to establish that tone at the beginning instead of just having this one little rough
Yeah,
thing sticking
random
out. Like,
Joss
what the fuck
line
was
in
that?
the middle of the movie. Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of campy nonsense, we got the Stranger Things 3 trailer. So we got that
this looks
coming
fantastic. This continues to remind me that I got to go watch the rest of season 1 and season 2 because I really do enjoy it. But
season 2 is great. Apart from the Super Friends nonsense that went on there.
What do you mean Super Friends nonsense?
There's one bad episode in the season.
I don't think it's bad. I just think it kind of kills the pacing and distracts from, important stuff. It feels like a filler episode.
It's a bad episode.
But I like the concept of the episode. If that makes any sense, like that they established that 11 isn't alone. But anyway, it feels like a filler episode. So anyway, season 3 looks good. I'm looking forward to that.
Not enough of Mike's mom in this trailer, but
oh really? I'm a Nancy man myself.
I read a really disturbing headline because my work computer defaults to the MSN homepage, and on as the homepage for when I open up Google Chrome, and when I opened it up one day, one of the headlines was I forget her name, who plays 11. What's her name?
Millie Bobby Brown.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's correct.
and they were like, "Is she the up and coming new hottest actress in Hollywood?" And I'm like, "Isn't she like 14? Is she like 15?"
It gets really creepy.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
It's weird to take that as a side footer or whatever here. It's weird to take kind of like normal vocabulary for fashion and that sort of thing, like cute and hot and like sexiest whatever, which is really just the intention of just like fashion and attractiveness and all that. But then strip that away from what you're actually talking about and apply it to somebody who's not over the age of consent, and suddenly it's like, what are you fucking talking about?
Yeah, I'm sure there are like countdowns to when she's legal and shit too.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Okay, we gotta get off this topic right now.
For any cheese pizza enthusiasts out there, we got Natalie Portman already.
We gotta get off this. We gotta get off this topic.
We got Natalie Portman.
We gotta get off this topic.
Why?
Just look up Natalie Portman. There you go. It's just like it's like a old version of Millie. So there you go. Lawsuit or whatever avoided. I'm not saying that I'm condoning that myself. I'm just saying.
So the trailer looks really good. The new bad guy in the trailer looks really fucking creepy. It's like an amalgam creature. It almost looks like made up of a bunch of different parts, kind of like the creature from Zygote, the Neil Blomkamp short film, which was really really good. So that looks really really creepy. And the story here is, I don't know. It's gonna be heartbreaking to me because I hate stories that are like about like, you know what, we're about to grow up. It's the last year of high school or, whatever the fuck. We can't stay kids forever. Let's go on one last shebang, one last ride before we have to grow up and be kids. And I'm like screaming at the TV, you don't have to grow up! You can keep playing D&D! You can keep doing all that cool stuff. Fuck being an adult.
I think
You didn't watch season 2, did you? No.
I feel like
the end of season 2 is hard. See, the ending of season 2, the last episode is... It's like a heart punch. It's like they rip open your chest and literally stab your heart with their fists.
I don't think anything will change about the show, though. I feel like that's obviously the trailer. That's the start of the story. But then we'll get to the end and be like, it doesn't matter. We can be kids forever.
I mean, I'm not criticizing that. I think that's going to be really good. But those are stories that always tug at my heartstrings.
I hope they all...
We got to grow up.
I hope they all like totally go 100% on that, and that they all like apply to like accounting at the local community college at the end of the season.
Well, they got to do something about it because they're all like fucking 20 years old now.
That's the community
Can you imagine,
backstory.
Like they go full like out of Stranger Things and right into Community.
Anyway, moving on from that, looks good. Looking forward to it. But we got some news on Toy Story 4. Missed opportunity to call it Toy Story. Anyway. So
Toy Story, just to quickly kind of wrap this up, we got a couple of teaser trailers earlier the year, or maybe even last year, for Toy Story 4, the unnecessary sequel in my opinion, because Toy Story had really wrapped up its trilogy quite well with the third one. But perhaps this is for a new audience. But whatever. This film looks to be it's not based with Andy. It's the new kid who I forget her name from, who Andy gave all his toys to at the end of the third one.
It's Forky.
He kind of grew up and kind of put it away, and she creates a new toy called Forky out of a spork, which kids are wont to do. And anyway, Woody and Forky go on a trip where Woody's explaining to the Fork like what it means to be a toy for a kid, and then he ends up meeting up with Bo Peep, one of the original characters from the first movie, somehow. And they end up having, they end up kind of being at this fair, and they're like, why would you ever want to go back to being with a child when you could be here? And I'm like, isn't this the plot of Toy Story 2? Didn't we already have this conversation where they're like, why would you ever want to be a kid when you can live forever in a museum?
We haven't.
Like fuck, that's what made Toy Story 2 so great, because it posed that question, like, why would you choose something that's only going to last for a little bit when you can choose something that's going to last forever? And it was a very poignant question, and the answer was because it matters.
Go out with a bang.
Anyway, they seem to be doing that again. I don't know if that's actually what the plot of this movie is, but that's what the trailer has led me to believe.
I think that in the end of this movie, Forky becomes like the Freddy Krueger of the Toy Story universe. And it's like he just starts massacring the other toys.
My intention of this movie was they were going to have Forky be like a real shitty, not real toy who's going to be bullied. They're like, you're not a real toy. Nobody bought you. And then by the end of the movie, it'll be like, oh, well, you can be a toy if you believe it. So this dirty, used fork can be a toy. And then happily ever after or whatever.
Yeah, well...
Give me my paycheck, please.
Anyway, so, it's Pixar. Pixar has only ever really put out one terrible movie. Truly terrible, awful movie that I've seen. I don't know what Cars 3 was like, but Cars 2 was genuinely fucking atrocious. All their other movies have been, at the very worst, just okay. And at their very best, they've been, like, less good movies and more bold strides forward in the nature of storytelling. So, this movie will probably do satisfactory, but I just think it's very unnecessary because Toy Story already has a really good trilogy. It's the third movie wraps up the whole thing really well. It's good. It's amazing. Why did you fuck with this? Please, this is
money.
Yeah, it's the very definition of an unnecessary sequel.
All right, we'll see. Anyway, Quentin Tarantino's doing the thing. He's making another movie that seems kind of Oscar-baited to me, but looks cool.
I'm really excited for this. This has three of my favorite actors in Hollywood right now: Margot Robbie and Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. I really like all those actors, and the fact that they're all in the movie together in this kind of meta-narrative style film about filmmaking that I think is Quentin Tarantino is obviously.
And the backdrop is the Sharon Tate murder, which is
is it?
Yeah, Margot Robbie plays Sharon Tate.
Yeah.
You see Charles Manson in the trailer.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, fuck.
So the movie is called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because we didn't mention that. And yeah, supposedly is about that stuff. I don't know,
what about Star Trek? When's he doing the damn Star Trek movie?
You're too busy doing
after
that.
this, I guess. This looks really good. I'll watch anything Quentin Tarantino makes.
Me too.
I don't know where directors find the time for this shit, to be honest. Jon Favreau's doing the Lion King remake, but he's also doing the Mandalorian. Like, fucking, how do you do so many things?
Clones.
Yeah.
They have the Time Turner. That's for all my Harry Potter.
Aaron, let me introduce this one for you.
Okay, yep.
Hey, Aaron.
I also like to preface before we move on to this that I'm driving terribly because I can't hear the car shift rev limiter. And I'm driving with a manual gearbox, so it's making this incredibly difficult.
Hey, Aaron, anyway. Rory has to be playing things in 6 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on The Division 2? After a week of playing it nonstop.
Try and wrap it up real fast. Bullet point, Rory. Yeah, I've been playing it quite a lot the past week. I figured I'd just elaborate on my thoughts from last week. I will say that I really enjoy it. It is a very fun, satisfying shooter. The shooting mechanics are very good. It's a beautiful game. A lot of the environments are amazing. I like the narrative, the story that I've been playing. I haven't actually finished the narrative yet. It's actually quite lengthy in terms of just sheer story content, which is really nice. It feels a lot longer than the first game. So I would say if you power through the story, it's probably a 30-hour game, maybe 20 hours if you just did story stuff. Surprisingly, very little grinding. I feel like you don't need to really grind at all. The game is very generous in the different types of things that it gives you in terms of like weapons and gear. And the way it sort of unlocks things. If you can't find something specific through RNG, then there are other ways of just obtaining it anyway without having to deal with RNG. So compared to a game like Assassin's Creed, there's next to no grinding at all during the story mode. There are some bugs. I've had it crash a number of times, even since last week when I said it was done crashing. I don't know if that's on my end, Uplay's end, or running it through Steam, or if it's just straight up the game. It seems a little strange, but anyway, the crashing is annoying. There's some visual bugs, animation glitches and stuff in the game, some weird minor things that don't necessarily break the game, but definitely impact the playability of it briefly. So that's annoying, but it actually has been patched, I think, 2 or 3 times, even just last week, to address some balancing issues. Other than that, out of the box, it works pretty great as a multiplayer game. Very fun. It's a nice evolution from a game like, I don't know, what's a good show, like Counter-Strike or something, where instead of just doing match after match shooting stuff, this game sort of blends all of those different game modes together into one kind of cohesive game in one universe. So I really like that. The blend between the Dark Zone PvP stuff, even PvE if you prefer, and then the sort of solo world space is exactly what I was looking for in a shooter game, I will say. So very fun. If you're looking for a shooter, I would say that this is something to keep in mind.
Neat.
Yep. We can probably just not even mention that last one. Battlefront 2 is getting a new game mode, which will let you start on the ground and end up in capital ships. I don't know if that means you can actually fly ships or if you just kind of load screen your way up there.
That would be neat. That was a feature that was gonna be in the original Battlefront 3. Sorry, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we never got that because that game was canceled because they shut down the studio. Anyway.
So we might play that next week when that game mode is out, because I believe it comes out next week.
Yeah.
And then we can check it out then.
Cool.
So I guess for now, that will do it for this episode of the podcast.
Thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Later.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.